Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We aim to be your shortcut to getting, well, properly informed.
That's the goal.
And today, we're taking that shortcut straight into the first chapter of the Mundaka Upanishad.
Mm-hmm.
We're leaning heavily on Swami Viditatmananda's lectures, along with some other key commentaries, to guide us.
Right. So think of this as a really focused look at this foundational text, the Mundaka Upanishad. It's part of the Vedas, and it really zooms in on spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of ultimate reality.
Yeah, and it's structured quite neatly, isn't it? Chapters or mundakas and then sections within those.
Exactly. Chapters and khandas.
Yeah.
And today we're tackling just that first chapter, which really sets everything up.
Our mission really is to help you, our listener, get a solid grasp of the core ideas here, knowledge, reality, without it feeling overwhelming.
Yeah, we want clarity, maybe some of those aha moments. It's about getting to the heart of it.
Okay, let's jump in. Where does the Upanishad itself begin?
Well, it starts by laying out the lineage, how this knowledge was actually passed down. It's this concept of the Guru Parampara, the chain of teachers.
Ah, the lineage. So who was first?
It starts with Brahma, the creator in Hindu cosmology. He imparted this wisdom first to Atharvan.
Okay, Brahma to Atharvan. And it didn't stop there.
No, the chain continues. Atharvan taught Angiras, and then Angiras passed it on to Satyavaha.
Satyavaha, from the Bharadvaja lineage, the text says.
That's the one. And what's interesting is the mention that Satyavaha received it through succession, elders to younger disciples. It really underscores this careful, deliberate transmission.
Like a sacred trust being handed down.
Precisely. And the knowledge itself, it's called the science of the spirit, or maybe better, the science of Brahman, the ultimate reality.
It's not just information, but the knowledge that supposedly lets you understand the imperishable being, the core truth.
Exactly that. It's the key knowledge. Knowing this is said to reveal the unchanging foundation of everything, which, ties into that idea of getting deep knowledge efficiently.
Right. So we have the lineage, the nature of the knowledge. Then the chapter introduces a key interaction, doesn't it? Angiras and Shanaka.
Yes, Shanaka. He's described quite vividly a great householder.
Meaning someone involved in worldly life, but also deeply spiritual.
Exactly. The text mentions he performed many Vedic rituals, was very generous, fed many people, so someone well-respected, active in both worldly and spiritual duties.
And this respected figure approaches Angiras, the teacher, with a question, a really big one.
A huge one. Shanaka asks, essentially, "Sir, by knowing what single thing does all this, the entire universe, become known?"
Wow. That's the ultimate question, isn't it? Is there one key to understanding everything?
It really is. It sets the whole stage for what Angiras is about to teach. It makes you ponder, could there be one thing?
It definitely stops you in your tracks. So
No.
how does Angiras respond? Does he just give the answer?
Well, not directly. First, he makes a really important distinction. He talks about two kinds of knowledge.
Two kinds.
He starts with what he calls apara vidya, or lower knowledge.
Lower knowledge. What does that include? It sounds a bit dismissive, maybe.
Well, lower maybe in the sense of preparatory or related to the phenomenal world. It covers a lot. All four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva.
The core scriptures.
Right. And then the auxiliary sciences needed to understand and apply them. Phonetics, the mechanics of ritual, grammar, etymology, meter, astronomy.
So basically, the entire traditional curriculum, everything you needed to know to be a learned person and practice the Vedic way of life.
Pretty much. It covers all conventional knowledge, including the karmakanda, the path of action, the rituals, which, importantly, were also seen as steps towards spiritual growth, preparing the mind for Vedanta.
Okay, so that's the lower knowledge, comprehensive but still lower. What's the contrast?
The contrast is paravidya, higher knowledge.
Ah, okay. And what defines this knowledge?
Angiras defines paravidya simply as the knowledge of that by which the imperishable is known, the akshata.
The imperishable. The unchanging reality, the ultimate source.
Exactly. This higher knowledge isn't about the details of the world. It's about the fundamental cause, the origin, the very ground of being from which the entire universe arises.
So lower knowledge is about the what's of the world, the Vedas, rituals, grammar. And higher knowledge is about the why, the source, the unchanging reality behind it all.
That's a great way to put it. It's the knowledge of the unchanging reality itself, and understanding this difference is really key to the whole Upanishad.
This imperishable being, the Akshara, It sounds incredibly abstract. Does the Upanishad try to describe it?
It does, but mostly by negation, by saying what it isn't, because it's beyond our usual ways of understanding.
How so?
It's described as unseen, ungraspable, without origin, without specific qualities or properties. It doesn't have the usual sense organs, no eyes, no ears, or limbs, no hands, no feet.
So completely beyond anything we can perceive or interact with using our senses. That makes it hard to imagine.
It's meant to be. It pushes the mind beyond the limits of sensory perception. But here's the crucial point. This indescribable, imperishable reality is the eternal source of everything that does exist.
The source of all creation. How does the text illustrate that? I remember reading about some analogies.
Yes, there are a couple of really powerful analogies. One is the spider.
The spider.
Yeah, just as a spider spins its web out of its own body and can draw it back in again.
Ah, I see. So the universe comes from this akshara, from its own substance, and returns to it.
Exactly. It's an effortless, inherent process. The other analogy is plants growing from the earth.
Okay, how does that work?
Just as countless different herbs and plants spring up from the earth, drawing their life from it, the entire diverse creation arises from this one imperishable source.
Those are vivid images. They help ground this really abstract idea, a single source for all this multiplicity.
They do. They give you a feeling for it. And then the Upanishad describes a sort of unfolding, how things emerge from this akshara.
Like stages of creation.
Sort of. It says first arises tapas, which can mean austerity or concentrated energy or the heat of creation. From that comes anam, food, or the subtle material basis of existence.
Okay, energy, then matter.
Then from food comes prana, the life breath, or vital force. Then manas, the mind. Then satyam, truth, or the laws governing existence. Then the lokas, the worlds, or realms of experience.
Worlds. Could that also mean like our sensory apparatus, the places where we experience things?
That's a valid interpretation, yes. Lokas as the golakams, the physical locations of the sense organs, and prana sometimes stands in for the indriyas, the senses themselves. It's quite layered.
And what's the final stage mentioned?
Finally, amritam in actions, which is often interpreted as the immortal or undying potential consequences of actions, karma.
Ah, okay, so the potential for future results, happiness, sorrow, stemming from the actions performed within these created worlds.
Exactly. Beings perform actions, karmani accumulating merit, punya, and demerit, papa. These become part of the universe, holding this potential for future fruits, which lies dormant, amritam, until it ripens.
That connects back to the rituals Shanaka was performing, the path of action. How does the Upanishad view those rituals now, in light of this higher knowledge?
Well, it acknowledges them. It even names specific Vedic rituals, Agnihotra, Darsha, Parnamasa, and others. It describes the offerings into the fire, the 7 flickering flames of Agni.
So it's not dismissing them entirely.
Not dismissing their place within the lower knowledge framework. It mentions how performing these correctly, with devotion, leads the performer, guided by the deities invoked, to a heavenly realm after death where the Lord of the gods resides.
A positive outcome then. But is that the end goal, according to the Upanishad?
And this is where the text delivers a really crucial warning. It emphasizes that all actions, karma, whether worldly activities or these religious rituals, they are fundamentally limited.
Limited how?
It uses a strong phrase, something like, these ritual forms are unsafe boats, adrida yajna rupa. Because the memes use the offerings, the performer's effort, the specific time and place are all finite.
Ah, so finite actions can only produce finite results.
Precisely. The results, like reaching a heavenly realm, are temporary. They don't last forever. The Upanishad is quite critical of those who mistake these rituals, these pious deeds called Ishta and Purta, as the ultimate goal.
The ones who don't know about the higher knowledge.
Exactly. It calls them foolish, deluded, thinking there's nothing greater. They enjoy the fruits of their good deeds in that high place, the back of heaven, Akasya Prishta.
But then what happens?
Then their merit runs out, Shina Loke. When the positive karma is exhausted, they fall from that state and re-enter this world, or perhaps even a lower one, continuing the cycle.
So it's a clear statement that the path of action alone, even religiously sanctioned action, doesn't lead to ultimate permanent liberation.
Absolutely not. It leads to temporary rewards within the cycle of birth and rebirth. The real goal, the Upanishad implies, lies in pursuing that paravidya, the higher knowledge of the imperishable.
Wow. Okay, so that first chapter covers a lot of ground. It establishes the tradition, makes this huge distinction between lower and higher knowledge, points towards the nature of the ultimate reality, and then critiques reliance solely on actions and rituals.
It really does. It perfectly sets the stage, introducing the core problem, the limitations of the phenomenal world and its knowledge, and points towards the solution, understanding the akshara, the imperishable source.
So just to wrap up the key takeaways from this first chapter deep dive, we started with the Guru Parampara, that chain-transmitting Brahma Vidya, the science of the ultimate.
Then the crucial split. Aparavidya, lower knowledge, Vedas, rituals, grammar, all that. And Paravidya, higher knowledge, knowing the imperishable, the akshara.
Right, and that akshara is described as beyond senses, the source of everything, using those cool analogies like the spider and the earth.
Yeah, and the stages of creation unfolding from it, leading to the worlds and the potential of karma.
And finally, that stark warning about the limits of karma. Even Vedic rituals, they give temporary results, but they don't break the cycle. You need the higher knowledge for that.
That captures it perfectly. Understanding this foundation from Chapter 1 is really vital for getting what comes next in the Mundaka and other Upanishads. It frames the entire quest.
It certainly does. And for you, our listener, grasping this chapter gives you that solid base, that shortcut to the core message.
It definitely clarifies the path the Upanishad wants to lead us on.
So as we finish, maybe a thought to leave you with. How does this ancient idea of an eternal, unchanging source, the akshara, connect with our everyday lives, our perception of a constantly changing reality?
That's a deep question. How does the unchanging relate to the changing? Something to ponder.
Definitely. We'll dig deeper when we explore the second chapter next time. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you. Looking forward to continuing the exploration.